Well, Dan, we're back. Episode 4, Botch Wrestling Podcast. Yeah. Season 2, of course, like we've been stating. Um, very big week and a half since we last been on, right? Been a week and a half.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. Quite a bit of stuff with pay-per-views. NXT Heatwave, Money in the Bank. Um, I was more in favor of Heatwave, but we could talk about that later on. Um, we got a surprise return, I guess you could say, at the end of Raw. Um, my dad's favorite wrestler in all of World Wrestling Federation history
Hmm.
um, is back.
Yeah.
Mommy,
He loves
Rhea
he loves his
Ripley.
mommy. He
Um,
loves his mommy.
Now, if Rhea, if you hear this, I just want to put this out there. Dominic did not cross the line. He got a PlayStation 5. He got some chicken tenders, some chicken nuggets, and that was it. He never crossed the line. It was a one-way street that Liv kept trying to go down, and Dom wasn't playing ball. If you should be upset at anybody, it should be Finn. Finn was enjoying that PlayStation 5 a little bit too much, and he was munching on those chicken tenders. So I'm just saying, if there's someone, please don't take it out on Dom. As much as I hate Dom as a person and as a character, um, but once again, I'm all for the ladder match for Dominic. Let's see it again. Um, let's bring it back. The old, E- the old Eddie versus Ray for the custody of Dom. Let's do it. Rhea versus Liv. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about. We won't go through every match on the cards because that'll be a lot. But how are you feeling in regards to the world of professional wrestling over the last week and a half or so, Dan?
I mean, I'm feeling good about one company for sure. um, you know, yeah, I mean, WWE is still hitting on all cylinders for sure. And
Yeah.
they're still on fire. And the other promotion might be floundering a lot, but hey, it is what it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
but
I'm, I mean, it's tough, right? Like, it's tough when you go out and spend all that on Mercedes Bonet to come in and what did she have? She had one or two belts now. Um,
two, she has a New Japan belt and an AEW belt.
she has two belts. She's cutting a promo, and the crowd's telling her to STFU while she's doing the promo. That's not really for if she is prior to MJF coming back, she was supposedly the highest paid person in AEW, which I don't know if I believe that, but that's what was circulating. Um, that's a tough look for Tony to have to deal with. Is the person you spent all this on to come back is all of a sudden, being told by the crowd, we don't want to hear you talk. That's kind of bad. But yeah, we can hit on that. So what I was thinking, just to get this started, uh, let's just go through the two big cards that we had from WWE this past weekend, um, and see if there's any highlights you want to talk about.
Okay.
I have uh, obviously, like we've talked about it before. Whenever there's a ladder involved, I get very giddy. Just because how great the athletes are at WWE, that I know we're gonna see something crazy. Um, and um, honestly, I think both the men's and the women's Money in the Bank was pretty good. I thought the women's Money in the Bank was possibly up there for the best match of the weekend out of both cards to me. Um, I mean, we saw some crazy stuff occur. The bump that Chelsea Green took from inside the ring off the top of the ladder through the table. And she
Yeah.
caught her back perfectly on that, so she broke it right at where her collarbone and her back bends, so it's not really injured. I mean, I don't even know how you like. You don't practice that, obviously, so like you just got to go up there, hope you're getting pushed the right way, and just tuck your head. Like, is that what it pretty much is? Like, you know what I mean? From that high up,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, even though the stakes are a lot more dangerous if you screw up, it's just muscle memory and no different than, I guess, a gymnast or
yeah, no,
a diver, like a
right,
competitive diver, just knowing when to turn, and when to straighten out before you hit the water, and how far out you can go without hitting your head on the board, or how high you can launch yourself off of parallel bars or whatever, like uneven bars. I guess it's just like that in that sense. Like you just know, right?
yeah,
Like
you have to, right?
so,
Like, if
right?
you're
I
that
mean,
high up, you have to be on your p's and q's there. Because
yeah,
I don't know if I could do it, to be honest with you. Like, I don't like even if
no,
they put out like a blowout, blow up bounce house or something and said you're just gonna fall into the bounce house. I still think I would be afraid to take that bump. I would take a overshot moonsault on the side of the ring again before I would take any type of bump like that. Um,
yeah. I mean, look, we live in an area known for football fans that jump through tables off the tops of buses and cars and trucks, and how many have you seen that are successful? Like 5% are
yeah,
successful.
yeah. No,
It's
it's
not
it's
it's it's not that easy. You
no,
have to know how to fall, and you have to know how to have the right trajectory, right? Like
yeah, yeah. And I definitely
and how to land and how to land.
yeah, right. Like, you have to just protect yourself up there, like you said. But yeah. So starting off, men's was pretty good. They had their spots with Andrade, which I thought he was going to be great in it. I'm a big fan of his. I'm glad he has the speed title, and I'm glad he's getting a shot to show what he could do in this. Um, I thought it was kind of underperforming for LA Knight. I thought, like, if he was going to grab back any attention, this might be the match for him to do it. I don't think he was bad in it. I just don't know if it fits his style, I guess I would say. But the result of the men's Money in the Bank was Drew McIntyre getting the briefcase. And then
Yeah,
later on in the night, when there was a botched kick out, he shows up
yeah,
to cash in. And then good old one Bill Phil comes and pounds on him, screws him over. He loses, and that's it. So the cash in happened the same night as the win, and it is basically null and void. So there is no Money in the Bank cash in going to happen in any point of this year, as it just happened all in one night. Um, I saw there was some mixed reactions about it.
yeah.
I don't
I
know
saw
how
that too.
much. Yeah, so let me put this by you. If we didn't have the botched kick out beforehand, do you think there would be still that many mixed reactions, or is the botched kick out what stirs the pot of like why they did it that way? Because people are
No,
saying this buries Drew career, and I don't think this buries his career.
I don't think it buries his career, but I think a lot of like the online chatter I saw was much more of they think it was a waste of the briefcase,
Okay, that's fair.
storyline
That's
wise,
fair. Fair.
right?
Fair.
Yeah, like story like you could have had CM Punk screw him before he cashed in. You could have had him not win the Money in the Bank and just you know just let him be a part of let
Yeah.
him just develop that story a different way.
Yeah.
Um, you could have let him win using the briefcase, um, and then let Punk do something. So I think that's what I don't think the botch had much to do with it. I mean, we know one guy that was very upset about the botch, but I think it's more of I think people just thought it's a waste of a briefcase because it was cashed within an hour and unsuccessful, and it was very predictable that it was unsuccessful with Punk screwing it up. And while it was fun to watch and it definitely continues that story, I think it's just people were like, well, you could have developed that money in the bank
Yeah,
briefcase for a longer period of
that's
time,
fair.
or you could have given it to someone else if you knew you were just gonna blow it off the same night. Um,
Yeah, that's fair.
I
Fair.
think I think that, and I don't necessarily disagree. I didn't have a problem with it, but I don't think that's a bad take either. You know, like you could have given that to someone else and let them have a trajectory for a while
Sure.
with the briefcase. But otherwise, like I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I don't.
And I mean it has the benefit, and they played that out last night. It has the benefit of keeping a few coals on the fire for Punk and Rollins. So, you do get a twofer because he screwed Drew and Seth in theory.
Yeah. So the best case scenario is that we get Drew versus Seth versus Punk at SummerSlam. Then would you say as a triple threat
I think that's best case, but I feel like they're just gonna do
and Punk?
Drew and Punk, and
Yeah,
then
and then
that finished, and he can move on to Seth in whatever capacity that is. I mean, I
that's
tend to
fine.
think the announcement of Bad Blood as a pay per view coming back probably, there's a lot of we talked about this. There's a lot of ways you could go with that play on words. It could be bad blood with the bloodline.
Yeah,
It could be bad blood with Seth and Punk, who have had the bad blood since before Punk came back, and certainly ever since he came back. So you kind of can long term story tell that those two could meet at something like Bad Blood, because it doesn't have to be for a title, obviously. It's all about Punk having screwed Seth indirectly, and Punk originally apologizing and immediately saying, "Yeah, but I'm not really that sorry because it's you."
yeah. No,
You
that's
know,
fine. I completely, I
yeah,
can, I'm completely open to what people are thinking
yeah,
with that. I get that completely. Um, my only thing is, I think this heel run that we're seeing Drew on is bigger than that title. I think this is the best Drew that we've ever seen.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think he's still on an upward trajectory of where this heel run is going to end. Like he's just that good. Whatever it was, like being involved with Punk or being involved with Damien or Seth or whatever it was, just Drew something clicked, right? And we kind of said this when we used to talk about the MJF versus Punk thing. You put those two guys out there, you don't know what it is. You couldn't put your finger on it, but something clicked, and every time they were together, it was perfect. And
Mhm.
Drew's just been perfect on this upwards trajectory, even with the botch, e- even what Drew did afterwards when he basically took over the post show and was destroying everything. Like it was picture perfect of this is the guy that you expect to see. This is the guy that they used to call what, the prototype or whatever it was. Like this is the guy that Vince brought in.
Yeah.
Like this is the guy we thought we were gonna get back then, but now for whatever reason it's clicked and he's rolling. So yeah, that was great. I definitely see that point with people. Um, I just think the botch is something that happens. I mean, they wrestle what 250 days out of the year. They're gonna have a botch here and there. It's unfortunate when it occurs on a pay per view. It really is. But I mean, we see it from both
Yeah.
co- companies.
I think it's more of I think it's more of an issue because there were several throughout the night. So it was just a bad night for a
Yeah,
lot of, like,
I think
they just had a few. That one's just bad because
it's part of the
that
storyline, right? Like it's in there
well,
as
and whenever you screw up a count, you know, like either you didn't kick out, or we've seen it in the past in AEW where a referee counted to four one time.
yeah,
Like, like it's it's just very glaringly obvious, and it also becomes critical. It's a critical mistake for the story because Seth, in theory, should have won. Did you listen to or see the clip of Bully Ray's take on that on Busted Open?
I did not.
So it was a really good take, and he doesn't know exactly everything on the inside of it, but he goes, look, his opinion. Well, first of all, his opinion was that Damien was knocked out,
Well, so
like, and it was dazed.
so
Yeah,
that's the first thing that I brought to you is just hopefully he was there. So
yeah. Bully thinks he was dazed. Obviously not knocked out, but he thinks he
yeah,
was dazed because he said, and his trigger to think that, and I didn't even notice it until I went back and looked, is after the missed count, you see Damien kind of a little glassy eyed look, and he's doing this with his
trying to feel it.
fingers,
Yeah,
almost as if he's just kind of coming back and realizing, and it's too late and he couldn't kick out, and you almost kind of see a delayed reaction, but it's way too late. So he thinks he was a little dazed, probably got his bell rung, and then he goes, the real problem for him, and he goes, the WWE that I was in, the refs were told, you make the 3 count and we'll just deal with it.
yeah,
He goes, and that didn't happen. He goes, that should have happened, and then this wouldn't be discussed. He goes, people might realize that that probably wasn't supposed to happen, but you protect. He goes, the problem is you've exposed the business, and he goes, and it doesn't matter because everybody, virtually everyone watching, understands there's a story that's playing out here and there's an outcome that's determined. He goes, but you're now exposing the product by letting that type of botch happen. He goes, the referee should have just counted the third count, and they would have just had to deal with it, and they would have worked it on the fly. And he goes, it might have made for a better story. You just never know. So I thought that was a good take. I think it's unfortunate that Damien, might have gotten his bell rung. Um, and it is what it is. Like, and whether or not production screwed up a little bit by not playing Drew's music soon enough,
yeah,
that's possible too. And it is what it is. I think in general, though, it's highlighted because too many people. I mean, because there were just several for the night, so I think the show is, and it's very uncharacteristic of WWE. These things happen, but when somebody slips on a top rope, or
right,
like, think about when Damien got his legs caught up in the ropes. Um,
right,
last month, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah, everybody talked about that, but nobody was sitting here going like, "Oh man, what a critical mistake." Everybody was just like, "Wow, that was kind of crazy the way that happened." Or if somebody misses a kick, and or misses a move, like, whatever, you forget about that in 2 seconds. You don't forget about this one because it should have been a 3 count, but it is what it is. And we'll talk about it a little bit later. But there were a couple of botches in the main event that just happened, and I think they're just highlighted because people are already like ultra aware, of some of the things that happened. And I actually, little spoiler alert, I actually think Tongaloa got his bell rung as well. And I think that's why he screwed up the low blow.
yeah.
I
I
actually
was
think he
thinking
was
that.
struggling.
I was thinking that too, but then if you like go back and watch it, it looks like KO was actually like pulled forward a little bit at the same time. So it kind of looked like there was, yeah, it could be either or. Like it could be like he just got dazed and he swung and he missed, or just like KO was like brought forward a little bit, which threw off the full like low
Well,
blow.
I mean, earlier, not long before that low blow, they did the deal with whoever came off the top and hit him back into the announce table, but the back of his head
Yeah, he
smashed
went like this.
into.
Yeah.
And I think he got his bell rung there because even after he did the low blow, which he ended up accidentally hitting what's his face in the forehead, um,
Yes. Which was
even
kind
in
of
that,
funny. Yes.
after he did that low blow, he kind of went down to one knee. I think he was weakened a little bit. Like, he just,
Yeah, he dropped a bit.
yeah, I think he just also was a little dazed, and like, but also, like, honestly, and to be fair, I'll say this about 95% of the botches in AEW too. Who the hell cares at the end of the day? It happens.
I mean,
These guys, these people are human. Like I know
yeah,
it happens more in other promotions, and that's fine. But I, you know, these are very, very choreographed, athletic maneuvers that most people can't do. Like you're asking these people to jump up onto a rope that's what the width of a couple of quarters, maybe if that, and land perfectly with their feet to then spring off and time it right. Like you
and
look at a
it's
guy like
steel. They're
right. Oh yeah,
jumping on
yeah,
steel.
right. And you look at a guy at like Ricochet's a great example, who's just an amazing
Yeah,
athlete, and like you see all these moves that they can do, and you just like, and you were just talking about with Chelsea Green, like how do you properly time all
yeah.
that perfectly? So you're talking about such a precision sport in that sense, like whatever, man. Like
That's why I don't get involved in those conversations online because it's kind of like the armchair quarterbacks, right? When they're like, "Oh, if I didn't blow out my knee in high school, I would have went to college." And it's like, buddy, like as long as it doesn't screw up the storyline and everybody's completely healthy from the botches, like yeah, obviously a botch low blow is kind of funny because how often do you come across that? But as long as
yeah,
everybody's healthy, you think they wrestle what 200 to 280 days out of the year, and they do this once a year,
yeah,
like the percentile. Okay, cool. Like
right,
Like it doesn't matter. Like it's like they know how to work around it as long as everybody's healthy. No freak accidents happen. Like you don't want to know an heart type thing to occur ever again. Like it's just the best to protect everybody. And to be honest, let's be real. They're only trying these because they know they have to keep one upping what they did the last time. So they do it for the fans. The only time
yeah,
I have that I have issues with this type of stuff is when I see like GCW get so bloody with like these sheets of pane glass, or they're jumping off like paint scaffolds through like four chairs glass and then barbed wire. I'm concerned like just the smallest cut is gonna turn into something bad. That's a whole other different thing compared to what we watch on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesday nights. But yeah, so be it. Those that want to play that WWE versus AEW battle, go ahead. That's what Twitter's for. But Jesus, these athletes are once in a generation. That's why they are where they are. Um, but yeah, so that was pretty good, like we said, for them. Ben's on to the women's Money in the Bank. I thought that was better. I was a little bit concerned because Zoe Stark had a uh, couple of times where I feel like the adrenaline just helped her like overshoot. Like when she tried to do that springboard corkscrew thing, it looked like she caught the side of her head or the side of her collarbone like on the rail of the ladder
yeah,
instead of the person. So I was concerned about that. But then again, like you got to think about it from these, and this is with all due respect to this. This is one of the first times that the women have been given the green light to go out there and do this type of stuff, right? Like this
hmm
never happened under Vince. So
right,
anything you see now is straight out what they're putting together, and they're pulling off 95% of it. So just sit there, enjoy it, and don't complain about it. It was still good. I thought this one was better than the men's one, and I asked you and my dad about it twice. I'm like, I think this one's better than the
yeah. I thought so too.
guys. So
Yeah, I thought so too.
Um, once again, that fall from Chelsea Green that scared the crap out of me. I really don't know how she did it. Um, I'm glad everybody got to see how good Lyra Valkyrie truly is. I think they have something special for when Becky does decide it's time to hang it up, that she could take over for Ireland. I just think she's good. She's sound at everything she does. She hits hard. She's not afraid to get into these types of matches. I do, and from whatever you hear backstage, like everybody loves to work with her. You know, so she's not an issue where she quits halfway through a show just because she didn't like how her costume fit on her that day. Um, like somebody on Wednesday Nights did. But I mean, I guess you could say that Io was the picture perfect consistency that she's always been, right? Um, she's very good. You can put her in with anybody, and she's still gonna look very good, no matter who it is. Um, I mean, I was so with how bad the crowd was wanting Chelsea to win. I was wondering if they're gonna pull a last second swerve here and give Chelsea the briefcase. I thought for sure that was going to happen, but
Yeah,
I
I
thought
thought
for
so
sure
too.
that like that's the card they were gonna pull. But kudos to Tiffany Stratton. I didn't know if they thought she was that ready this early, but I guess they must see something at the training center that we don't. So
Well, and I mean,
I'm
she doesn't have to cash in for up to a year, so they've
no,
got
yeah,
time.
she's good. I don't have any complaints about it. I just thought it was gonna be a little bit later on. Um, but and the whole storyline of her versus Trish is pretty funny. I think that can be pretty good because where Trish has slowed down, I feel like Tiffany can help her in the ring. Um, but yeah, overall, I found this pretty good. Like we said, there's a couple slip ups here or there, but thankfully everybody was was and is healthy as I last researched. And Tiffy got the briefcase. So, and but she did not cash in that night. So Tiffy still has her briefcase, which she said she's gonna make it pretty and bedazzle it and all types of things.
Like, yeah, pink and
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of interested to see how atrocious she makes this briefcase actually look. Yeah, so those two were great, as I think we expected going into this card. Those two are always good. Um, and kudos to the women's when they were under Vince. They rarely got this opportunity to go this big, and they are really bringing it right now. So congratulations to them. I look forward to seeing what else that division is gonna do, as that is the best women's wrestling division on the planet. Um, and I'll put that up against any other promotion right now. I don't care what Britt Baker has to say at this point. I mean, these girls are in and day out. They're out there performing. They're doing house shows. They're doing whatever. So kudos to them. Now I might stray different from your thoughts on this, but
yeah.
my next and final favorite match from just the main card pay per view was Sammy versus Braun. I thought we saw the side of Braun that we expected to see, but Braun taking this loss, I don't think it hurts him. I think it just increases the credibility to Sammy as a champion. Um, I thought it would do some damage to Sammy's character if you had him go through all that to finally beat Gunther, and then he all of a sudden just drops the Braun. We both said beforehand we didn't want him to drop, but we had a feeling that he was going to. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm glad he didn't. I like Sammy as the champion. I liked it even better that he was in Quebec on Monday as the champion as well. I find that very enticing, and that was very well done for him. He's just good, right? Like he's like, I don't think he's ever gonna be the guy that carries the big belt, but he can help carry your company along. He can
Yeah.
carry the U.S. belt and the Intercontinental title as we're currently watching. And he's just great, right? Like he doesn't screw up. He knows what to do. He's pretty good on the mic. He gets involved in anything that he can get involved in. Um, and he looks like a guy's guy, right? He's not coming out like Drew, where he's like just shredded, or Roman. Like he looks like he just got off his 9 to 5, and he's here ready to fight. So those were my three favorite from the main card. It's not that I'm crapping on anything else on the cards. I just felt those three were what caught my eye the best. Any thoughts there, Dan? Any different of opinion on the third one, or?
No, no, I actually agree with you.
All right. So
Yeah.
next we had NXT Heatwave in Toronto on Sunday, which I was thinking of more about your point. I didn't mind that they started that at 7. I thought it would be cool if they started that in the afternoon at like a 2 o'clock show or something. That would be cool.
Yeah.
But I get why they do it. They're just trying to give NXT its own, you know, big time frame to do what it's got to do. More power to them. But first off, right off the bat, Obi Femi, I have never saw a grown man toss around another grown man the way that he tossed around Wes.
Yeah.
Did you see that F5?
Yep.
He like supercharged it.
Yeah.
And he just like threw him like a frisbee golf person. That had to be so painful. The way he came down square on his stump. Oh my god. It hurt just watching it. Like it's crazy, right? Uh so I was reading online that some people are concerned that Obi might get to a point where he's turning into Omos. I don't see that with Obi because
No.
he's so much better in the ring.
Yeah, I don't see that either. I hadn't seen people that had said that, but I don't see that either.
Like he's just so much better. He's just like as a character, he's so much better on the bike. He's so much better, and he's just that much better of an athlete. Like he's in there taking his bumps. I get. I, I mean, I don't know. It's I guess if they're talking about to the scale of like who's gonna beat him, um, sure. But oh, and just so you know, that NXT's on, and they just debuted the Rascals.
Okay.
So, uh, wow, NXT's cooking, man. Even NXT's cooking now. Jesus. Um. So yeah, it's I get it. Honestly, at this point, I think I brought this up to you before. With all the crossover that you're supposed to have with Jordan Grace and Joe Hendry,
Yeah.
if you do, so there's been talks for quite a bit now, right, of them doing like a crossover pay per view.
Yep.
Do Obi versus Moose,
Yeah.
champ versus champ, and whoever wins walks away with the other belt. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't have anybody in NXT that you're gonna let beat Obi right now, why would you not let them two big dudes just go at it? Like, I mean, that I would actually pay for that pay per view instead of stealing it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. That's true.
that'll be awesome. Um, so yeah, I mean, he's just a freak right now. I even got my dad to go back and watch some of his stuff and just with how high he was throwing Wes. My dad was like, "This isn't real." I'm like, "No, he is really throwing this guy like this, like he is just a wrestling pillow right now." Um, so yeah, kudos to him. He retains. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do because he's just a monster. Um, and I guess so. This is the other thing I started talking to you about when we were off the air. Um, Blaney Jordan versus Sol Ruka. So you know my two least favorite people on all of planet Earth, Dan,
Yeah.
had to go and open up their mouth like they're actually real wrestling people, and it's not like the generation has passed them by, and basically said this isn't real wrestling; it's a choreographed dance, and it never bordered on actually being a wrestling match, and blah blah blah, and it was weird. Mind you, the same type of transition that this match had, Ricochet and Osprey had a few years back, I believe, and got 5 out of 5 stars. Now, I'm not going to point out the obvious that it's two females and two males because I think Uncle Dave got enough of that today. Um, but here you go, Dad. So, um, um, yeah, I don't like. It's just tough. It's so yeah. It's like like for somebody that considers himself like the original podcaster of wrestling or the original journalist of wrestling, right? When you know this transition looks pretty much the same from a match that you said was 5 out of 5 stars a few years ago, like the internet's not going to pull that up on you, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
and if you're supposed to be progressing the sport, right? Like we all want both companies to do good, right? We don't want to go back to one company and then if something happens to that company, we're all screwed on pro wrestling, right? No matter how crazy this Twitter trash talk between companies gets or whatever, the more wrestling we have, the more wrestlers that are employed, the more wrestling we get to watch. That's what it comes down to, right? So it's kind of like I don't know, like it's just it's tough. It's like it's a bad like it's I already did not pay attention to them just because of all of his past issues about being a complete liar, allegedly, and him having friends that wear pom poms on their boots that explode that I could care less about. Um, like it's just bad. Like why crap on them when they're putting on a good match? Fine, if it's 3 out of 5 for you because it looked that choreographed, sure. But let's not pretend
Right.
like Ricochet and Osprey are not having a half hour conversation beforehand. They just might be better athletes at it. That's all it is. Like, so that was unneeded. And I couldn't tell if it was two guys just trying to say something to get a rise out of people, which probably was. But, like, yeah, I don't know. It was just stupid. Like, that's the best way for me to describe it. Just stupid. I thought those two gave, gave, gave it their all. They were doing some stuff in the ring that Dave and Brian Alvarez couldn't even dream of. So that's once again the armchair quarterback there t- talking out their ass. But um, yeah, but yeah, like you already know, they are two of my least favorite people on the planet. So I'm gonna stop myself before this turns into a rant in regards to them. Um, I also
Yeah.
thought the tag match between Chase U and Axum and Dathan Frazier was probably the best tag match I've seen in the last 3 years.
Yeah, it was a good match.
I have never seen somebody do a sunset flip powerbomb off a pin. Have you, Dan?
No.
That was, and I texted you. Did you catch this? Am I hallucinating? Like
No.
the Stones to just try that, especially at his height. He's a big dude pulling this off. So, but that's the thing, right? Like you're eventually gonna have to bring these tag teams up, right? So, like, but I love having these tag teams in NXT. Like that's one of the reasons I watch NXT was for these tag teams. But Chase U's so good, and so is Frazier and Axiom. Like it's tough. It's just
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, kudos to them for that. That was awesome. That was probably like I said, probably the best tag match I've seen in the last 3 years. It had everything. I don't know. It the tandem dives, like setting up the finishers, the sunset flip power bomb, one legged off the top of a pin. Chase sunset flip power bombed it like and then Frazier accidentally drilling Axiom with the super kick would almost cost them the titles. But then they were able to bounce back. It's insane, man. They're just good. They're just very good all around. Very, very good. Um, so yeah, it was just great. Um, and then I guess this took some debating because I did like the Roxanne batch. The tough part is, I think there's very few people in NXT that are on her speed when it comes to being in the ring. So I think that's something you kind of catch when Roxanne's out there. I do believe she's the true the definition of what people call her, the prodigy. It's very evident and very obvious that she is the prodigy. Um, but it wasn't bad. But I definitely have to say my next favorite was Ethan Page winning an NXT championship. Right?
Yeah.
Well, what's your thoughts on that, Dan?
I mean, the way they did it, I think, was great. I don't think I would have had him win it like super clean. We talked about this when he first showed up. It didn't make sense, but
Right.
he's a good character. He's, he's new, he's fresh. He adds a great element to what they've already got. He's obviously a good worker. He's a good wrestler. He's good promo. So the way they did it, I think, was perfect, right? Because they could give him the title. It creates a chase situation for Trick or whomever, and it puts Trick right back into chasing after having gotten to that mountaintop, and he got kicked off it pretty quickly, but not cleanly, and not in a way that you can blame him for the loss, and it just makes the story better. If you keep having Ethan Page lose, then he just loses that luster right away.
Yeah.
So I think it was done. I think it was executed amazing.
Well, and I stand corrected. He won an NXT championship, the main title in NXT, in 1 month and 11 days after he debuted. And he had a tough time sniffing the cards at AEW.
Yeah. Yeah.
42 days to be exact, Dan. 42 days. And he's
Yeah.
a WWE champion. I mean,
Yeah.
like, oh my god, like it's great, right? Cause like you said, this kind of builds off of it. It doesn't do anything to Trick, and like Trick's face when he's getting pulled out of the ring and he's trying to grab Ethan, but he can't, and he's just like screaming. Like he's watching it like get stolen from him, basically. So you could
Ah, it was great.
and
It was great.
you could go back to Trick at any time now, and it just gives Trick another title run.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, it was a packed weekend, right? Like it was, which was cool because I feel like I don't like know we have this like every 6 weeks or whatever, but it definitely felt it was longer since the last time we were able to have like both cards. To me, it just felt like it's been a little bit too long. So just to have it back and just to be and the holiday weekend like probably amped it up for me as well with time off and everything. So that was cool just to like relax and just enjoy wrestling for a weekend. Um, and it's also kind of funny just to watch how crazy my dad gets about his certain wrestlers in it because he's getting back into it. And as you saw, he gets pretty entertaining once he's
Oh my god, he is so mad about that botched three
yeah,
count. That
yeah,
was a 3 count. That was a three
yeah.
count.
Fire that ref.
Seth, Seth should be the champion. That was great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, um, but yeah, I just I don't know, man. It was great. Like I felt like it was a great weekend of wrestling, a decent Raw. There was a lot of commercials, but the promo with Seth and Punk was good. So that kind of just opened up the door of Seth telling Punk, whenever you do get cleared, I'll be the first one to break your arm and to put you back on the bench, which just builds it even better, right? Because as much as we loved MJF and Punk going at it through promos, I think Seth can get there too. Because don't forget all the things that Seth said about Matt Riddle. So Seth has
Oh
that
yeah.
in him to go
Oh
toe to
yeah.
toe with Punk. That's not anything Seth can't do. So that'll be interesting for sure. Um, yeah, I mean the possibilities are endless, right? Right now, right? Like just from like a finance side, they're killing it, right? Like every show's a
Oh,
sellout.
well, mm-hmm.
Merchandise is flying out the door. Um, like I just said earlier, they brought the Rascals into NXT. Um, if it's true that they signed the Boulder City Machine Gun Tag Team, that's gonna be a crazy win for them as well. Because that's just another crazy tag team that they could just throw in whenever they want. I mean, I don't like. I guess before we transition on to something else in this podcast, do you think it is the wheel behind WWE that just is making it pop off so well right now and so well within the last 2 years? Or like, do you think it's like it just clicked? Like it just clicked when they hit Endeavor, and now that they have Endeavor resources, they can do no wrong with whatever they touch.
I you know, I guess I'm sure that the Endeavor TKO thing is part of it for sure. But I I I also um I also just think that they were on the precipice of getting here anyway. I don't think that it is a result of extra money coming from Endeavor. The money was there either way. Obviously, I think the change in leadership is part of it. Um, I think the absence of Vince is part of it. But I think they were on that precipice anyway. Now, so I started it by saying I'm sure there is an impact by the Endeavor, and
Yeah.
I don't want to downplay that, but I just kind of feel like they would have been here either way. Maybe it was quicker because of Endeavor. Um, but I just feel like they were heading this trajectory. We've been talking about it ever since, like, kind of ever since Vince retired and then came back. Like, we still were talking about we're getting to a potential golden age of wrestling. Now we're in it
Yes.
for sure.
Yes.
And how it's remembered is still to be determined because it's early in that age, in that period, but we're in it now for sure. But we've been talking about approaching it for a while, and it certainly doesn't hurt them. um Not that it was really ever a real dogfight, but it doesn't hurt them that AEW is just kind of sucked too. um you know, not that they were all that worried, but they really haven't needed to worry either. And if nothing else, AEW has fed them a few things and probably showed them a few things you can do. I mean, look, just like, and you hate to do this, but you have to. Just like the WCW WWE war for a while, what happened? WCW did something, it was a good thing, it was popular, or it was whatever, and then WWE took it and did it better. It
Correct.
just took a little longer.
Yep.
And it's not exactly the same comparison, but you can look at what AEW was doing with New Japan, that when it started was a popular thing. It was different. It was something new. Well, now WWE, and they did it with Impact too, or TNA. Now WWE has done it better. They took that idea, and not that they couldn't have thought of that on their own, but they have a framework that AEW used, and they kind of probably saw what worked and what didn't work in that situation and in that relationship. And what did they do? They went out and they did it better.
Yeah.
Just like 20 just like 25, 30 years ago. So, yeah, I mean, so at the end of the day, like, yeah, I'm sure Endeavor has a is a part of this, but this reason, but I just kind of feel like we would have gotten here anyway. Things were just clicking, and they've just clicked very well, and the stories have been really good, and the bloodline thing, like, the funny part about the bloodline thing, like, and I don't know, we can kind of segue into this. I watched the WrestleMania documentary
Okay.
today on YouTube. I wasn't super impressed with it. It's not bad. I just didn't. I guess I thought maybe it was just overhyped too much. Like, for me, I didn't think it was like, it was cool, but it wasn't like great. And to be honest, it was very skewed in my opinion of becoming a very like rock centric documentary,
Yeah.
and his role in this whole WrestleMania thing, and his role with Endeavor now and the TKO board, and his relationship with Ari Emanuel and all that stuff, and Brian and all that, part of it. But when you think about it, the Bloodline storyline in general was getting a little stale. Roman was getting a little stale. The Cody thing rejuvenated that, but that kind of also put the Bloodline as a secondary story. And now look at us now. Like, we're just beginning a whole new chapter of this story, and it's going to be really good.
Oh yes.
Like, you
Oh
just
yes.
know it's going to be really good. And it was like, here you go. Like, all this stuff that happened that was really cool has also completely rejuvenated something that was getting to be too stale. Roman's storyline for 2 years was amazing. Well, 2+ years was amazing. It was fun to watch, but then also it started to be like, what were we talking about? If we go back and look at our episodes, we were probably going, "What's left?
Yeah.
He's beat everybody." Like, now they're just gonna have to rehash people, and they did a little bit, and
Yeah, but not
then
as bad as we thought, right? Like they
maybe not as bad as we thought. But if it wasn't for Cody coming back,
then it
where
would have
would
been
we
bad.
have been
Yeah.
with that?
No, yeah, I
Where would we
agree.
have been at?
But I thought
So,
we were yeah, I think when we were getting into those episodes, we were getting kind of afraid of like, Oh, so we're just gonna rerun everything from the past 2 years, right? Like that's what we thought that they were gonna do with this, but they surprised us, and it was all good. Yeah, and like you said too, like how many more relatives do they have out there that WWE's been in touch with?
I mean, well, the answer to the first part of that question is I think unlimited
It's so
amount of
good. Yeah, I
relatives.
mean, yeah,
As far as how many they've been in touch with, I don't know, but probably
all
five
of
or
them.
six
Yeah.
minimum. Yeah, no, I mean, so like we've gotten this rebirth of this story that is going to just continue to get better. And we haven't even gotten to the part. I mean, fans are just clamoring for Roman to come back. So when that happens, it's just going to go off the charts again, and
Just
put him
imagine.
right back at the top where he was just before the Cody thing. And he spent a year and a half feuding with Cody essentially, and the injury in the middle of that had to extend that. But you know, we we've just gotten to, and you know they do have to thank AEW for one thing, and that's screwing up the CM Punk relationship
Oh,
enough that it brought them back together.
yeah.
I mean, I tend to think it probably could have happened either way, because he certainly.
I think he wanted to go back there as much as he was telling people he didn't. I think he always wanted to finish his career there because he wants
Yeah,
the
and
Hall of Fame. As much as he says he doesn't, with him being such a student of wrestling, such a fan of wrestling, you gotta think he wants the Hall of Fame, right? Like that's the legends of legends. And once he gets inducted into there, like he is a legend. For
yeah, I tend to think that I take a little different course on that. I tend to think that I think he was satisfied with his career, but then getting back into it with AEW reignited something deeper inside of him, that
yep.
he realized like, look, I was satisfied, but now this has just reignited that itch. And that led him to opening his mind about a return and how that might look. And could he kind of let bygones be bygones, and kind of smooth things over with the powers that be there now. Um, so I think, I don't know if he hadn't ever debuted again in AEW, I don't know if we would have seen him back. But
No,
once he
that I
debuted
agree.
again, I felt like it was like a foregone conclusion that he would get back to WWE at some point. But they sped that up with everything they screwed up about, and we benefit from it.
Yes,
So
100%. Well,
it's
and
great.
it helped tremendously that Vince was gone, right? Because I felt the stuff between Hunter and Punk was business stuff. I felt when Vince was involved, it was personal. So as long as it's business, it's two guys that love the business. It's two guys that's trying to do everything they can for the business. There's always a way for those two guys that are business guys to work things out. And that's pretty much what Hunter said, right? They both sat on the phone for a few hours. They both apologized to each other. They both just said, listen, this is just how business was going. And when you say something like that's just how business is going, that kind of sounds like, well, you know that's because of who we had in charge at the time, right? Like, so, like, I feel it was like more personal towards Vince than it was ever towards Hunter. And you're right, because of AEW, because of Jack Perry of all people, Jesus Christ, that sends Phil Brooks back where he belongs, back home, and they're crushing it. Like
And they
it's
were crushing it. They were crushing it without him, and
yep,
now this just puts them more over the top because
yeah,
you
because
know
like you said earlier,
it's just
Punk,
great.
Drew, Seth, Damien, like right there, you just add a five-tool player right to your roster, and think of how much Punk's been involved, and he's been hurt for the last 4 months.
Yeah.
He's doing commentary. He's at NXT training. Like it's wild, man. We're in wild times, and I just hope like everybody that's listening to it and everything like truly understands like how great it is right now because it's awesome. It's so awesome.
It
Um,
is. I mean, it's certainly the best it's been since the Monday Night
so
Wars.
to add on what you, oh yeah, without a doubt, right? There's not even
It's not
close.
better than that yet.
No, no, no,
Maybe
no.
it could be, but
I
I
mean,
don't
if
know. It's gonna be hard.
WWE
It's gonna
continues
be
on
hard to
this,
ever beat that.
if WWE continues on this run for the next 2 to 3 years, you have to say it's pretty close, right?
Mm, I mean the
Po-
run, but I have to see what
Popularity
they're doing
wise,
in that
yeah,
run.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, like I just like I mean it has to get to the point where the shows are cannot miss on a weekly basis because that's what it was in the Monday Night Wars.
They're
I don't
almost
care about the
there.
rating. Yeah, they're almost there, but they're not quite there because and part of that might be social media makes it too easy to keep on track. So it you are comparing a different time, and that needs to be considered as you have to wait this a little bit. But I mean, you just couldn't miss Monday nights ever,
Agreed.
week after week, because you missed too much, too many things going on, too many surprises. Now, now that I think about it, granted, I can miss Monday Night Raw and then watch 30% of it through Twitter and be relatively caught up and see some good highlights, but it's more fun to see it in the moment. So if they can get back to a situation where the shows become must see TV, cannot miss week after week for weeks and months on end, then yes, I could say it might be better than the Monday Night Wars. That might be an impossible bar to meet, but I don't know. I mean, that was just
You,
such a crazy
you know what
time.
I was explaining to my dad over the weekend about it that I think is going to take them to the next level is that they're basically going to be uncensored on Netflix. So is this the aggression era 2.0? Is this the attitude era 2.0? Right?
Maybe.
Like that might be the thing that says like okay, it's a hot product now, right? And it's like okay, watch what we do now where we basically can do whatever we want. And then it's just going to catapult them up, right? Like that's yeah, it'll be interesting. To build on what you just said though that I wanted to bring up. So I think we've all seen it. I'm not trying to throw AEW under the bus, but Ethan Page's comments about AEW, right? About how much organized it is compared to AEW. Do you think that's the endeavor factor? Like, yes, WWE was very organized beforehand, right? Because they had to be. Because they're all independent contractors. They all got themselves to their own cities or whatever. But do you think that's the big prime factor of where Endeavor kicks in now? Is that
No, I don't personally, just because I think I think that organization has just been in place for years. Um, I don't think Endeavor changes anything like that. That process, I mean, maybe they've enhanced it. I'm sure they've helped enhance
sure?
production and
Yep.
the ability to produce and like the set building
Yep.
maybe and stuff like that. Like I'm sure they've added enhancements, but I just think it's always been that organized. And while it might have been chaotic at times because Vince was tearing up a script with 15 minutes to go, like other than that, like that didn't necessarily impact as negatively because like he's making the comparison saying nobody's giving us guidance essentially. We had to figure out everything before we got out to the ring on our own with very little guidance. Well, even if Vince tears up the script 15 minutes before showtime, they're still going to tell you what to go out and do
Right.
20 minutes from now. So, yeah, you have to do it a little on the fly, but you're still being told. And it seemed like Ethan's Page's comments was like, it takes the pressure off us to just go out there and be the best character and iteration we can be with their guidance. But so I don't know that Endeavor impacts that all that much other than maybe some of like the background stuff that you don't think about too much. Like you see that a little bit in the documentary too with WrestleMania. Like it seems clearly that the stage building right off the bat was something that they have more juice behind now that maybe they didn't have quite as much juice before, right? Like there's a clip in it where Rock and Triple H are talking, I think, about the press conference stage. And Triple H was like, "Yeah, they built this in like a day, and it's awesome. And now this is what it's going to be, and you're going to be able to stand right there, and we can do fireworks if you want, or we can do them over there. We can do." And he's just like, it's like he does have like an unlimited
Yeah, budget.
budget, maybe. So that part of Endeavor, I'm sure, is helping. But the part Ethan Page is talking about, I think, is just what it was going to be, regardless.
Yeah, I mean, it it's wild, man. I tried to watch it when I got home. I watched 15 minutes of that and I had to turn it off. It just did not click for me. I just couldn't. I don't know what it was. I think you're right that they've been talking about it for so long of like when it was going to premiere and putting out so many advertisements for it and everything and I couldn't. I just I just couldn't get clicked into it. So, yeah, I mean, they're hitting, right? Like they're hitting on everything,
They are hitting.
and NXT's hitting tonight. We're bringing back the Rascals. Like it's just like I don't know. Like I don't know, man. It's nuts. It is nuts. So yeah, I mean, the next big one we have is SummerSlam, correct?
Yeah,
While
August
while we're away,
3rd, 4th,
yeah. While we're away, while Botch Wrestling Podcast will be on another vacation. Uh,
August 3rd.
yeah. So
Basically, day one of the vacation.
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what pans out from now until then. We got some time, a little less than a month, so it'll be good to see what's happening there. I mean, to be honest, I hope to see more Bloodline stuff. I hope to see them get more involved. I hope to see a Jacob Fatu singles match in between now and then. I hope we get that, even with it just being Orton or the just being KO. Um, I think the Seth Drew and Punk stuff is going to be good no matter what happens. Damien giving Seth a title shot whenever he's done getting through whatever he has to get to because they squashed a gentleman's agreement. You know, I, I I appreciate that. I think that's gonna tell a story pretty well. And help us get into the next stuff. I mean, is there anything AEW want to speak of? Like, I know like MJF's been back, but he really hasn't been doing anything.
There's been
Um,
nothing. Um,
Swerve still has a title, which I'm thankful for, but I feel so. How do I put this productively and not like the rest of the dirt sheet? Um, I'm very happy that Swerve has a title. I've told you that before, correct? I'm a very big
yeah,
fan of what Swerve can do. I think he's great. I think if you give him the proper push and he has the proper counterparts in the ring, I think he can tell very good stories and do some amazing stuff. And he has that edgier side too, that where when you want a beat down, he can give you a beat down. Like case in point, where he hung Hangman Page by the side of the ring with the chain and just left him there. Like he can go to that end of the spectrum and still come back to being the guy that's putting out 5 songs on Spotify on a Tuesday, right? Like he can go both ways there. With how bad the ratings been for AEW, I feel like Swerve is taking an unfair hit. But then again, he is the champ, right? So that's who they usually go after. But like, at what point are we saying is Tony doing everything he can? Like, you know what I mean? Because now it's like I feel like certain wrestlers are getting a bad rep just because they're in AEW, and I don't know if it's them really deserving the bad rep, right? Like for instance, like we talk crap about Bridge Holland because he's broken half a dozen necks on accident, and we basically said he should just be in the training center from now into eternity.
Yeah.
Like that's somebody that deserves that bad rep because they're not practicing safe. They're not taking care of the other person in the ring. They're a danger to themselves and to others. Swerve's doing everything he can to carry this company.
Yeah.
It's just not clicking, right? Like they went out and bought all these people. It's just not clicking. Like, what did you had again from Brandon on what the numbers were?
Well, for Collision,
Yeah, sorry for Collision.
Collision was, hold on. Oh, that's quarter hours. I don't care about quarter hours. Hold on. I mean, I care about quarter hours, but not for this discussion. It was 306,000 and a point zero eight in the demo. But obviously, Saturday night of a holiday weekend up against a WWE pay per view when they're on fire. Like literally, the WWE pay per view started an hour before Collision and ended 45 minutes after Collision ended. So I was more surprised they even got 300,000 people to
Yeah,
watch
no,
that.
I agree. I just like, what do you do? It's obviously you can't go buy people to fix this because they've done that, right? They went and bought Mercedes. They went and paid MJF to come back. They went and got Osprey. They're
Yeah, I mean,
supposedly getting Ricochet. Like you can't just go buy people to fix this.
no, but I also think like I'm sure I've said this before. I just don't look into Collision as being the show you base these decisions off
Oh
of.
no,
It's
but
a tough. We've been saying it from the beginning. It's a tough spot, and they broke a million. I think one time with CM Punk, and that was it. Like it's just not. I mean, it's a throw in, but clearly TNT, TBS, Warner Brothers, whatever they are, um, don't care. Because, like we've said, they'd probably be watching, you'd probably be showing Forrest Gump or The Green Mile if it wasn't for this show on a Saturday night. Like, it's not, they don't, you know. Now you look at Dynamite, and to me, that's more what you have to use. Dynamite, Wednesday the 3rd, which is still tough too, the night before a holiday where pretty much everybody's off the next day. They might be doing stuff. They got 700, well, 688.23 in the demo. Brandon doesn't have this. So I'd love to see if this was true or not. But AEW would like you to believe that it was the number one show on cable on last Wednesday night. I don't know if that's true or not. So I wish Brandon knew. I looked through. He doesn't have anything about it specifically. Um, if it's truly the number one show on cable for that night, which might be I think Tony tweeted out that that's the first time ever for them that they've been the number one show on cable on a Wednesday night or whatever. It shows you that it doesn't take much to be the number one show on cable. Um, that for that particular week, but again, you're past the hockey playoffs, you're past the NBA playoffs, so the things that TNT were doing that might or other networks were doing. What's going on in sports right now? You have the WNBA, you have soccer, which most of this country doesn't care about as far as TV wise.
yeah.
So the Euro and the Copa are going on, but that's not going to pull wrestling fans away, or
No.
a majority of them. It's not going to pull away. I don't even know if there were games on Wednesday night that would have competed with this, but
Yeah, there. Yeah.
there's no real, there's no football, there's no basketball, unless you cared about watching like a summer league game, which who the hell cares? No hockey. There's baseball. That's it. And I'm sure for baseball diehards it's big, but to be honest, July and August is kind of the time for me where I get a little tired of baseball for a while, just until it gets closer to the playoffs,
It's
just
long,
because
right?
it's kind of the dog days, right? Like it's literally the dog days of the season,
That's what they call it.
and it'll get better by the end of August, right? For sure. Middle to end of August, it'll get better again. And then you're setting up the playoff pictures. And then you get into September and it's the race, most likely, for some teams. And that gets interesting. So they probably didn't have a lot of competition. So being number one on cable that night, surely it's some sort of accomplishment, but you were probably the best of a lot of bad programming in general. But we've had that discussion 1,000 times. They're always, I think, in the top five for cable on Wednesday nights,
Yeah.
which for TNT, that's successful, and that's all that really matters. Is if your TV company that has rights is happy with what you're performing on. Now, on Saturday night, I have no idea, but like I said, TNT probably doesn't really care because what else are they showing?
Yeah.
They usually would show movies on a Saturday night, especially if there's something big going on otherwise. Like they're just going to throw you movies that are feel good movies that a lot of people will watch if they have nothing else to watch or do. And they're flipping through the channels and it's like, oh, I love the Green Mile. I love Tom Hanks. I'm going to watch the Green Mile for the 200th time on TNT, or Forrest Gump, or I don't know. They used to play the Batman movies a lot, and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, the Saturday thing, like I don't know, we talked about it a little bit. Um, it doesn't really, I don't know, it doesn't really do much for me that they did so poorly
No,
in the demo.
my concern is we've been hearing about a streaming deal, right? With how tough it's been for them lately, do you think this affects their streaming deal?
No, I really don't. Um, I really don't. I think Wednesday is the only thing that matters when it comes to that. I don't think Friday Rampage matters. I don't think Collision matters all that much. Um, I also look at it as, even though the distance, and this has always been the problem, the distance between WWE and who's ever the second best, biggest, whatever you want to use for a metric company, has always been miles apart. But whoever the second one is still a get for somebody,
No,
right?
I agree.
You can't get WWE, or you haven't gotten WWE. So if you want to do this, you go and get the next best thing, right? And for years, TNT did that with the NBA, and it sounds like that's not going to happen now with the new contract. But they've made a conscious decision just not to invest that way. But they'll probably up their hockey, right? Or they'll up into a different sport or do more in baseball, or maybe they'll actually didn't they get into the NFL a little bit for the, like, in a couple seasons from now, or am I just like making that up in my head?
My
But
only concern that I should have rephrased. We haven't heard anything on a streaming deal yet. So if we get to the end of this year and we still don't hear anything on a streaming deal, and we still hear Tony say, "Oh, a streaming deal's on the way," I'm gonna get a little bit more concerned. If something doesn't drastically change with the numbers, then there's no streaming deal. That's all.
yeah,
That's where I thought like it could possibly affect them. Cable TV, I think we all know. What do you think? It'll be dead in 2 years?
I'm with Eric Bischoff on this one. It'll be dead whenever the Khan family decides they just don't want to pay for it anymore.
No, but I'm just talking about c- cable TV in general, like
Oh,
being.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. No, cable TV, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I don't know that if I would say it'll be dead, but I think cable companies will be dead, right? Because there's too much of like companies like YouTube TV and Sling and all this that those companies will just you won't see your Spectrums and Xfinities and whatever other cable companies there are out there because that's just an antiquated service. It's now much more of like I want an a la carte service. I
Yeah,
can,
for sure.
mix and match maybe like and isn't right, ESPN is doing that, right? Like with ESPN and Fox. ESPN and Fox are creating a joint streaming service in the future, right? For like a sports deal, I think, or something, right? Weren't they doing something?
Yeah,
Um,
something like that. Just so you know, Joe Hendry is Trick Williams' tag team partner tonight.
well, they did too. They did tease that at the end of that tweet, which was so funny, which
Well,
was good.
and so Trick said he had to find a new tag team partner because Javon got attacked behind stage, or you know, backstage. Sorry, can't speak today. And while the announcer, I forget her name, is talking into the mic, she's standing in front of the TV, and then all you see is Joe Hendry's picture pop up on the TV. They are so good with that, like just like making it so obvious but so funny that it clicks, and it's great. Like, I mean, it's awesome. Like, awesome. So yeah, I mean, it's. I think that's my only concern with AEW. Like, I'll still follow it. I can't watch like every week just because I tune into Raw a majority of the time. But and I
Yeah, I barely watch it anymore. I
yeah,
just catch what I
and
can on
it's tough
social
because
media.
MJF is back, so I was waiting for that, but it really hasn't turned into anything. Um. So yeah, man, I don't know. Like that's my only concern is just if we're ever gonna get the true like streaming that we've been planned or promised by Tony. Because I would like for AEW to get the streaming. I would like for AEW to be able to put up all the Ring of Honor stuff, not just you know the stuff that you have to fight to find through the Ring of Honor app. I think that helps. I think that helps grow the sport even more because you're given another outlet for people just to go in and, like you said, watch a la carte, pick ever whatever they want to watch. And what's gonna happen there is that we always say something from the past always comes back around, right? Even if it's a type of match or type of move or a tag team or something, they're always able to reinvent themselves, and people are continuing to watch or do people found them. So I think that's what's best for wrestling. I just hope that we actually get there, because that's where my concern is with this. But yeah, it'll be interesting, man. I don't know, brother. It's just it's tough. It's tough for sure. So, um, yeah. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah. So, eh,
Yeah,
so NXT is just
yeah.
cooking tonight, huh? They're just saying, "All right, we're going all out for a random Tuesday."
Well, hey, why not?
Yeah, if they could do it. Um, the only thing I hope they do is they make this TNA NXT crossover thing permanent. Like, don't ever stop, please, because I'm enjoying this way too much. Um, so we'll be able to see. But yeah, so that's all I had today.
I mean, there's one big glaring thing we've missed, James.
What did I forget? Please help me.
I mean, only the retirement announcement of potentially the GOAT of WWE.
Oh yeah, that. Thank you. I did have that here. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, we
So when he was
we
at,
we watched him. We watched him come out, and then the towel. The last time is now, and I was like, "Whoa, what are we getting here?"
yeah. So what he said in the ring kind of differed from what he said in the press conference, correct?
Yeah, my guess is, and
I
I'm
think he
just
just got caught up.
I'm just yeah, I'm just making this joke, not because I don't really consider it this way, but it's just funny. I guess you could put it in the list of potential minor botches that he kind of botched the way he said it. Um, in the sense of it definitely sounded like WrestleMania was his last match ever in the ring, but what he meant was it'll be his last WrestleMania ever, which he clarified later.
Mm-hmm. And then he
So
said he's there from January to December.
yeah, but WrestleMania will be his last WrestleMania. But yeah, he's trying to do a year, 30 to 40 ish appearances.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
he essentially declared for the Rumble, or he'll be involved somehow in the Royal Rumble card, and he talked about being at Elimination Chamber, so you can read into that. And then he talked about the potential of whether or not he'd be a part of Money in the Bank. As far as when the question came up about what about that elusive 17th championship to take out Ric Flair's record. What do you think? And he talked about the Rumble, Elimination Chamber, and potentially Money in the Bank are three ways he could try to do that. And maybe it would be there, maybe it won't.
yeah, I like the fact that he mentioned like he would have to come back and he has to work for it, right? Like he's not expecting to be put right at the end. So like we might get Punk, we might get Drew, we might get Seth, we might get Damien, we might get all of Cody, we might get Roman, we might get Solo in a Royal Rumble against each other. You might
Yeah.
get Jacob Fatu in there. You might get the Elimination Chamber with any of them. You might get Money in the Bank with any of them. Like once again, it's just another tool that WWE can just throw into their belt, right? Of like, oh, don't forget we also have the greatest of all time for the next year. Enjoy trying to compete. Like it's crazy though. I didn't think we would ever get to a day that we would actually see him call it quits.
Well, and it's interesting because you know, he's saying, like, I'm calling this quits and this is quits. This is not like calling it quits and a year from now I'll be back in the ring or 2 years from now I'll come back. Like this is it. Like I'll
Yeah.
still be around, but I won't be competing anymore.
Yeah.
This will be it. Which, whatever. I mean, maybe that's true and maybe someday they talk him out of it. I mean, Punk made the joke. He'll be the one to talk him out of it after his retirement, but maybe not, but he claims he's gonna. I mean, it's very funny because he's drawing a parallel, not directly, like he didn't say this, but he is drawing a parallel to the Undertaker in the sense of like, look, when I'm done, I'm hanging up the jorts, and then you won't see me in jorts again.
But that's the
You'll see
classic
me in
way to do it, right? Like
right.
that's
You'll
the
see me in suits, and you'll see me, however, but you won't see me in uniform. You won't see me in the gimmick anymore, which is interesting to me because I don't know, like, well, I guess I don't know because I respect the way Undertaker's doing it too, but he also like didn't ever break kayfabe and break the behind the scenes stuff for years on end.
Oh
And
yeah.
John Cena's broken that a long time ago, but like it will be weird for me like after this year, like after he's retired, and then 2 years from now he makes an appearance, not to wrestle, but he just maybe makes an appearance on a show. He's the host or something. It will be weird to me for him not to come out in a very colorful shirt and matching hat and jorts, right? Like, just because, so, but I get it because I respect the way the Undertaker's doing it. Like, you're not going to see him don the outfit again. And he, like, even at WrestleMania, right? He was in a hoodie, you know?
Yeah,
But I mean, yeah, it's going to be cool to watch, and it's just another thing they're going to add into an already stacked set of storylines and opportunity they have, and they're going to throw him in the mix. And like you said, it's not going to be, oh, he's going to get a main event just because he's John Cena. Like, he's
he's
going
gonna
to
have to
have a
run the
story that
gauntlet.
dictates a main event. Yeah,
He said
like
30 to 40 times.
right. So 2 or 3 times a month, basically. So that's great. That's great for us. And yeah, I mean him and Punk for sure. You
It
you
still
could see
doesn't feel
another.
real though, because he always felt like a guy that was like was always gonna be around, right? And like in around in a sense, it's like he would always be in like his uniform.
Well, and yes, that's what I was just saying too. Like you just said it better than me. Like that's what I meant. Like it's going to be weird for him not to be around in that uniform and being that guy. Um, but yeah, it is weird. But at the same time, I guess it's you knew it was coming. He's been talking about it for a year or so at least, of like that last run is coming at some point. Like just got to figure it out. Got to get the schedule right. So I guess he's got the schedule right, or it sounds like he has the schedule right once Peacemaker is done. So I mean, it's gonna be fun to watch for sure. I'm gonna ask you this question. I already answered it before. I'll answer it here. I do want to see him get the 17th title. I don't know how your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, if he goes through it like he says he's going through it, like he's running the gauntlet, he's going through he's going through Rumble, he's going through Money in the Bank, he's going through qualifying matches, he's going through the chamber. I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for it for a few reasons, and like I think he deserves it.
Oh, he
I think I think like
he deserves
I
it
think
because he's so much better of a human than Flair is, and I would rather have him be remembered with all of that. I don't know, with all of that statute that goes with 17 titles. Like he just deserves it. You want to see somebody that basically gave his all to the company that you love so much finish on top. And if this is what it means for him to finish on top, then let's do it. Cue up Cody, cue up Orton, cue them all up, and let's let him run the gauntlet.
no, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. I think he deserves it for sure. I do think it would be nice to get him ahead of Flair just so it's not a tie with Flair. I've said it before. I wanted to see him or Randy break Flair's record. Like
Yes,
I think somebody should break the record for sure. Um, Either him or Randy, but he's closer, obviously, and
I would still like to
um,
see Br- Brandy break it, even if Cena does break it.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that either.
I mean,
And for me, I said this on Saturday night after he said he was retiring. For me, I, I mean, maybe I'm just not as like have to be as detail oriented, but I I don't care if he wins it in December and then vacates it the very next day and retires that
he
way.
still has
Like
it.
yeah, like I don't care if it's a 1 day reign just for the hell of it. Like if it takes him all year, Money in the Bank, and then like let's say he wins Money in the Bank, and then he's got that briefcase, but you know he's done in December because he said he's done in December, and like that becomes the story of like he has to cash it before December, and it gets right down to the very last day, and boom, he cashes it, he wins, and then he goes out on Raw the very next night or the very next whatever, and he says, "I did it. That's what I've been working all year to do, but my time's up. I'm vacating." And he goes into the sunset like that. Like for me, I don't care. Like he doesn't have to win it at a WrestleMania. Probably won't be at a WrestleMania.
And
It doesn't have to be a Royal Rumble win, but it could be like, you just have to see where the story takes you. I mean, they've got so much going on. Like, you know, I don't even know where they're going to go for next year's WrestleMania. There's all these rumors out there, but they have so many options. So I don't know. It's just going to be fun. It's going to be 2025 is going to be a real fun year for wrestling.
it's gonna be the
Real
best.
fun. Yeah.
It really is.
So,
It's gonna be the best.
but yeah, we'll have to do an episode next year talking about the totality of his career and favorite matches or stories and all that, and whether or not he should have ever made a true heel turn after all those years of being a good guy.
Yeah, yeah. We can start building on that for sure. I'm down with that. I'm always down to discuss Cena. And it'll give me
So
another opportunity to buy some wrestling shirts of his just to have for the pod. So works out for me.
I somewhere around here, I have to find it. Somewhere around here, I have a "You Can't See Me" towel that I got years ago at a show in Buffalo. Like, I think it was like $5, and I was like, "How do you not buy that towel for $5?"
Oh yeah.
If I can't find it, I'm gonna have to get to a show to buy one, or I guess I could probably buy it online. But
Oh, for sure, I'm in. For sure. Yeah, so we could definitely do that. Yeah, there's so much to speak on that it would just be tough just to throw it in at the end of the show, but it's kind of sad. But like we said, he deserves to finish on top, so hopefully that's what WWE finds him to do. And we'll definitely start working on a Cena specific episode talking about his batches, the belts he's heard, or the belts that he's had, even talking about the album, which I think turns 25, he said, next week. Um, so yeah, we'll start pulling all that together and working on that and go from there. Um, then we'll see where we'll go. But yeah, Dan, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about? Good catch on that stuff too. I had it here. I just completely read past it. So
yeah, it's funny. I was just waiting because I knew you had it. I knew you had to have it on the list. I just was
yeah,
waiting. I was like, oh, we're probably gonna end on that anyway.
yeah, I just read past it. So John, I apologize. I wouldn't ever forget you on purpose. Some people would say it's probably just because I can't see you. So there you go. Uh, But yeah, that's episode 4, season 2 Botch Wrestling Podcast. Back again after a week and a half. We'll be back next week as well. Just talk about what's going on in the current state of wrestling. Hopefully AEW improves with their numbers. But yeah, anything else, Daniel? We good for tonight, sir?
I think we're good.
All right. Well, until then, keep watching
It's good to be
wrestling.
good to be back, James, after another
Live
little
wrestling.
extended break.
Oh yes, yes. But the extended break was definitely needed. Just to recap everything that's been happening because it's been a fun-filled couple of weeks. So, um, go watch wrestling, enjoy the wrestling, stop complaining about the wrestling. Like, comment, subscribe. See y'all next week.